The cracked asphalt of Houston's abandoned streets baked under a merciless sun. Zephyr Novak, the last astronaut on Earth, trudged through the urban wasteland, her boots crunching on debris. The stench of decay hung in the air, a constant reminder of humanity's exodus to Mars. Zephyr's eyes, sharp despite years of disuse, scanned the horizon. The skeletal remains of skyscrapers loomed like ancient monoliths, their windows long shattered. A hot wind whispered through empty alleys, carrying the ghosts of a world left behind. Her comms unit crackled, the sound jarring in the eerie silence. "Novak, status report," came the tinny voice of Commander Ava Chen from the Mars colony. "Still breathing, still searching," Zephyr replied, her voice rough from disuse. "No sign of the artifact yet. Keep looking. It's our only hope." Zephyr grunted an affirmative and cut the connection. Hope. It was a luxury shed abandoned years ago, along with the rest of Earth's population. But now, with both planets facing an imminent threat, hope had become a necessity. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desolate cityscape. Zephyr's augmented vision picked up movement in her peripheral. She froze, hand instinctively reaching for her pulse pistol. A rat scurried across her path, its beady eyes reflecting the dying light. She relaxed, but only slightly. Even in this abandoned world, dangers lurked. As twilight settled, Zephyr made her way to an old convenience store, its faded sign barely legible. The shelves were bare, picked clean years ago, but it would serve as shelter for the night. She cleared a space among the dust and debris, setting up her portable HAB unit with practiced efficiency. Inside the cramped shelter, Zephyr allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. She pulled out a worn photograph, a smiling family, her family, now light years away on Mars. Her fingers traced their faces, a lump forming in her throat. She quickly tucked the photo away. Sentiment was a luxury she couldn't afford, not with the fate of two worlds resting on her shoulders. As she settled in for another restless night, Zephyr's mind wandered to the artifact. Ancient, alien, powerful enough to save or destroy everything. And somewhere in this vast graveyard of a planet, it was waiting to be found. The first light of dawn found Zephyr already on the move. She navigated through the maze of abandoned vehicles, their rusted hulls a testament to the swift exodus that had left Earth a ghost planet. The morning air was thick with humidity, clinging to her skin like a second suit. Her augmented reality display flickered to life, projecting a holographic map of the city. Red dots indicated areas she had already searched, an ever-growing constellation of failure. But today felt different. There was a charge in the air, an electric anticipation that set her nerves on edge. A distant rumble caught her attention. Zephyr's head snapped up, eyes scanning the sky. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, an angry mass of swirling gray. Climate change had turned Earth's weather volatile and unpredictable. She needed to find shelter, and fast. As the wind picked up, howling through empty streets, Zephyr spotted a partially collapsed building. The exposed steel beams formed a jagged mouth, inviting her into its depths. She hesitated for a moment, then ducked inside as the first fat droplets of rain began to fall. The interior was a maze of fallen concrete and twisted metal. Zephyr picked her way carefully through the debris, her helmet's built-in flashlight cutting through the gloom. The storm raged outside, its fury muffled by the thick walls. Something caught her eye, a glint of metal out of place among the rubble. Zephyr's heart rate spiked as she approached. Could this be it? The artifact that could save two worlds? She reached out, brushing away years of dust and grime. Her fingers traced unfamiliar symbols etched into the surface. It was small, no larger than her palm, but it thrummed with an energy she could feel through her suit's gloves. "Holy shit," Zephyr breathed, her voice barely a whisper. She activated her comms unit. "Chen, do you copy? I think I found it." Static crackled in response. The storm must be interfering with the signal. Zephyr cursed under her breath. She was on her own, at least for now. As she examined the artifact more closely, a soft blue glow emanated from within. The symbols began to shift and change, as if alive. Zephyr felt a pull, an irresistible urge to touch it directly. Warning bells rang in her mind, but curiosity won out. She slowly removed her glove, her bare hand hovering over the artifact. The air around it seemed to shimmer and distort. With a deep breath, Zephyr pressed her palm against the cool metal surface. The world exploded into light and sound. Images flashed through her mind. Alien worlds, advanced civilizations, and a looming threat that dwarfed anything humanity had ever faced. When the visions subsided, Zephyr found herself on her knees, gasping for air. The artifact pulsed gently in her hand, its glow now a steady, comforting blue. She knew, with a certainty that defied explanation, that this was only the beginning. As the storm outside began to subside, Zephyr carefully secured the artifact in a containment unit. Her mind raced with the implications of what she'd seen. The fate of Earth and Mars hung in the balance, and she held the key to their salvation or their destruction. With renewed purpose, Zephyr emerged from the ruined building. The air was fresh and clean, purged by the storm. She took a deep breath, savoring the moment of peace before the challenges ahead. Her comms unit crackled to life. "Novak! Come in, Novak!" Chen's voice was urgent. "I'm here, Commander, and I've got it. I've found the artifact." A moment of stunned silence then, confirmed Novak. "Return to base immediately. We're prepping for immediate evac to Mars." As Zephyr made her way through the rain-slicked streets, her mind churned with questions. What was the artifact's true purpose? How could it save both planets? And what was the nature of the threat they faced? The answers, she knew, lay in the pulsing blue object secured at her hip. But unlocking its secrets would require resources beyond what remained on Earth. Mars, with its thriving colonies and advanced research facilities, held the key to understanding the artifact's power. Zephyr's pace quickened as she approached the old NASA complex that had served as her base of operations. The facility, once a hub of humanity's space exploration dreams, now stood as a silent sentinel to an abandoned world. As she entered the cavernous main hangar, Zephyr was struck by a wave of nostalgia. How many times had she walked these halls, suited up for missions to the stars? Now she was preparing for what might be humanity's most important journey yet. The prototype shuttle loomed before her, its sleek lines a stark contrast to the decaying infrastructure around it. It was a marvel of engineering, designed for the sole purpose of making one final trip from Earth to Mars. Zephyr's fingers flew over the console, initiating the pre-flight sequence. Lights flickered to life across the shuttle's hull as systems came online. The artifact, still secured in its containment unit, seemed to pulse in response to the ship's awakening. As the engines began to warm up, Zephyr allowed herself one last look at the world she was leaving behind. Earth, for all its scars and abandonment, was still beautiful. The thought that she might never see it again sent a pang through her chest. The comms unit crackled again. "Novak, what's your status?" Chen's voice was tense with anticipation. "Preparing for launch, Commander. T-minus 10 minutes." "Copy that. The colony is standing by to receive you. Good luck, Zephyr. See you soon." As the final countdown began, Zephyr strapped herself into the pilot's seat. The artifact, secured beside her, pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Whatever answers it held, whatever power it possessed, she knew that the fate of two worlds now rested on her shoulders. The engines roared to life, drowning out the eerie silence of the abandoned Earth. G-forces pressed Zephyr into her seat as the shuttle clawed its way into the sky. Through the view screen, she watched her home planet shrink, becoming a blue marble suspended in the vastness of space. As Earth receded, Zephyr's thoughts turned to Mars and the challenges that lay ahead. The artifact at her side held the potential to save both worlds, but it also carried risks she could scarcely imagine. The visions it had shown her hinted at cosmic forces beyond human comprehension. The journey to Mars would take months, even with the advanced propulsion systems of her prototype shuttle. Zephyr settled in for the long haul, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. Days blended into weeks as the shuttle hurtled through the void. Zephyr divided her time between maintaining the ship systems and studying the artifact. Its pulsing blue glow had become a constant companion, a reminder of the weight of her mission. She spent hours poring over the strange symbols etched into its surface, trying to decipher their meaning. Sometimes, when she least expected it, the artifact would flare to life, flooding her mind with fragmented visions of alien worlds and incomprehensible technologies. As Mars grew larger in her view screen, Zephyr felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The red planet, once a distant dream, had become humanity's lifeline. But even as the colonies thrived, a new threat loomed on the horizon, one that the artifact might be the key to stopping. The comm system crackled to life, breaking the monotony of space. "Incoming transmission from Mars Colony 1, the ship's AI announced. Zephyr straightened in her seat, smoothing down her disheveled hair. "Put it through." Commander Chen's face appeared on the screen, lines of worry etched deep into her features. "Zephyr, thank God. We've been monitoring your approach. How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Ava," Zephyr replied, using the commander's first name for the first time in years. "But something's happening. The artifact, it's changing." Chen's eyes widened. "Changing? How?" Zephyr gestured to the containment unit beside her. The artifact's glow had intensified, pulsing in an irregular rhythm. "It's been getting stronger the closer we get to Mars. And the visions, they're becoming clearer." "What do you see?" Chen leaned closer to the screen, her voice barely above a whisper. Zephyr closed her eyes, letting the images wash over her. "I see. A network, vast and ancient, spanning galaxies, and Mars. Mars is a nexus point." Chen's sharp intake of breath was audible even through the comm system. "A nexus point for what?" "I don't know," Zephyr admitted. "But whatever it is, it's waking up. And I think we might have triggered it when we colonized Mars." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Had humanity's greatest achievement, the colonization of another planet, inadvertently set something in motion, something that now threatened both Earth and Mars? "Well, be ready for you when you land," Chen said after a long pause. "Our top scientists are standing by to begin analysis of the artifact immediately." Zephyr nodded, her gaze drifting to the red planet looming large in her view screen. "I just hope we're not too late." As the communication ended, Zephyr felt the weight of responsibility settle even more heavily on her shoulders. The artifact pulsed beside her, a constant reminder of the unknown forces at play. The final approach to Mars was tense. Zephyr's hands flew over the controls, guiding the shuttle through the planet's thin atmosphere. Friction turned the view screen into a wall of fire, the ship shuddering as it decelerated. As the flames died away, the Martian landscape came into view. The red desert stretched to the horizon, broken only by the gleaming domes of the human colonies. It was a sight that still took Zephyr's breath away, even after years of seeing it in transmissions from Earth. The landing pad of Colony 1 approached rapidly. Zephyr engaged the final landing sequence, feeling the familiar jolt as the shuttle touched down on Martian soil. As the engines powered down, she took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of two worlds. The airlock cycled, and Zephyr stepped out onto the surface of Mars, the artifact clutched tightly in her arms. A delegation waited for her, scientists, engineers, and at the forefront, Commander Ava Chen. "Welcome home, Zephyr," Chen said, her voice thick with emotion. Zephyr nodded, her eyes scanning the faces around her. These were the people she had left behind, the ones who had made the journey to Mars while she remained on Earth. The weight of their expectations was palpable. "Let's not waste any time," Zephyr said, holding out the artifact. "We need to figure out what this thing is and what it's trying to tell us." Chen nodded, gesturing towards the main research facility. "This way. We've set up a secure lab for the analysis." As they walked, Zephyr couldn't help but marvel at how much the colony had grown. The domes that housed the various facilities were larger and more numerous than she remembered. Plants grew in carefully cultivated gardens, their green a stark contrast to the red Martian soil. Inside the research facility, a team of scientists waited, their eyes wide with anticipation as Zephyr placed the artifact on a scanning table. "It's remarkable," one of the scientists breathed, leaning in for a closer look. "The energy readings are off the charts." Zephyr watched as they began their analysis, her mind drifting back to the visions she had experienced. The network spanning galaxies, Mars as a nexus point. What did it all mean? Hours passed as the scientists worked, running test after test on the enigmatic object. Zephyr paced the lab, her nerves frayed with each passing moment. The artifact's glow seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat, a constant reminder of the urgency of their task. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Chen burst into the lab, her face pale. "We've got a problem," she announced. "Seismic activity all across the planet. It's like Mars itself is waking up." As if in response, the artifact flared brightly, bathing the lab in blue light. Symbols appeared in the air around it, shifting and changing too quickly to read. "It's a key," Zephyr realized, the words tumbling out before she could process them. A key to something buried deep within Mars. The scientist looked at her in shock, but Chen's eyes narrowed with understanding. "The nexus point you mentioned," she said. "It's not just on Mars, is it? It is Mars." Zephyr nodded, the pieces falling into place. The entire planet is some kind of machine, or a gateway. And we've started the activation sequence. The implications were staggering. Mars, the red planet that humanity had fought so hard to colonize, was itself an artifact of an ancient alien civilization. And now, unwittingly, they had set it in motion. "We need to evacuate," Chen said, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Get everyone off-world until we can figure out what's happening." But Zephyr shook her head. "No," she said, her eyes fixed on the pulsing artifact. "We can't run from this. We need to see it through." She reached out, her hand hovering over the glowing object. The scientists cried out in warning, but Zephyr ignored them. With a deep breath, she placed her palm on the artifact's surface. The world exploded into light and sound once more, but this time, Zephyr was ready for it. She let the visions wash over her, piecing together the fragments of information. She saw the network in its entirety, a vast web of gateways spanning the galaxy, with Mars as one of its anchor points. She saw ancient races using these gateways to traverse unimaginable distances, to seed life across the stars. And she saw the threat, a cosmic force of destruction, moving inexorably towards their corner of the galaxy. The gateways were not just for travel, she realized. They were a defense network, designed to protect against this very danger. As the visions faded, Zephyr found herself on her knees, gasping for breath. The others in the lab stared at her in a mixture of awe and fear. "I know what we need to do," Zephyr said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her limbs. She stood, facing the group of scientists and Commander Chen. "Mars isn't just a planet. It's a gateway, part of an ancient defense network spanning the galaxy." Chen's eyes widened. Defense against what? "Something big, something cosmic. It's coming, and we've inadvertently started the activation sequence of Mars' defenses by colonizing it." The ground beneath them shuddered, a reminder of the planet-wide changes occurring. Zephyr placed her hand on the artifact again, letting its energy flow through her. "We can't stop what's happening, but we can guide it. The artifact is a key, and I think I'm meant to use it." Chen stepped forward, concern etched on her face. "Zephyr, we don't know what that could do to you. It's too dangerous." "We don't have a choice," Zephyr replied, her gaze fixed on the pulsing blue light. "If we do nothing, both Earth and Mars will be destroyed when this cosmic threat arrives." The scientists exchanged worried glances, but Chen nodded slowly. "What do you need us to do?" "Get everyone to safety. I need to take this to the center of the activation, Olympus Mons." As the team scrambled to prepare, Zephyr felt a strange calm settle over her. This was what she had been preparing for her entire life, even if she hadn't known it. Hours later, Zephyr stood at the base of Olympus Mons, the massive Martian volcano looming above her. The artifact hummed in her hands, its glow intensifying with each passing moment. "Are you sure about this?" Chen's voice crackled through her helmet's comm. Zephyr took a deep breath. "No, but it's our only shot." She began the ascent, each step bringing her closer to whatever fate awaited at the summit. The ground shook violently, fissures opening up around her. But Zephyr pressed on, guided by an instinct she couldn't explain. At the volcano's peak, Zephyr found what she was looking for, an ancient structure hidden for millennia, now exposed by the planet's upheaval. It pulsed with the same energy as the artifact, With trembling hands, Zephyr approached the structure. There was an indentation at its center, perfectly shaped to hold the artifact. She knew what she had to do. "Zephyr, our sensors are going crazy," Chen's voice came through, tinged with panic. "Whatever you're going to do it now." Taking a final breath, Zephyr placed the artifact into the indentation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a surge of energy exploded outward, enveloping her in a cocoon of blue light. Zephyr felt herself merging with the artifact, with Mars itself. Her consciousness expanded, encompassing the entire defense network. She saw the cosmic threat clearly now, a wave of entropy consuming everything in its path. With newfound power coursing through her, Zephyr reached out across the vastness of space. She felt the other nodes of the network responding, awakening after eons of dormancy. The wave of destruction approached, but now the galaxy was ready. Zephyr, as the focal point of Mars, directed the combined energy of countless worlds towards the threat. Time seemed to stand still as two cosmic forces clashed. Zephyr poured everything she had into the defense, drawing strength from the millennia of preparation that had led to this moment. And then, suddenly, it was over. The threat dissipated, scattered harmlessly across the universe. The defense network, its purpose fulfilled, began to power down. Zephyr found herself back on the summit of Olympus Mons, the artifact cool and dormant in her hands. She fell to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. "Zephyr! Zephyr, do you copy?" Chen's frantic voice broke through her daze. "I'm here," she replied weakly. "It's done. We did it." As rescue teams raced to her location, Zephyr looked out over the Martian landscape. The planet was changed, awakened to its true nature, but still home to the human colonies that had unknowingly triggered this cosmic event. In the days that followed, as Zephyr recovered and debriefed the astonished scientists, the full scope of what had occurred became clear. Humanity had not just colonized a planet. They had become custodians of an ancient legacy, guardians of a galactic defense system. The artifact, now inert, was carefully preserved as a reminder of the responsibility humanity had inherited. And Zephyr, once the last astronaut of a dying Earth, found herself the first of a new breed of cosmic guardians. As she stood on the observation deck of Colony 1, watching the Martian sunset, Zephyr felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning. "Ready for the next adventure?" Chen asked, joining her at the window. Zephyr smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon where Earth shone as a bright star. "Always," she replied. "The last astronaut of Earth is now the first explorer of the cosmos." Together they looked out at the red plains of Mars, forever changed yet still home, the first step on humanity's new path among the stars.